Okay. Just in case someone joins us. Okay. This is definitely a different perspective. But I guess I'm up on the screen there, huh? My face. Can you also see the artwork there? Is that also the whole screen? Or do you just see me?
We see you, and there's part of a paint. Is it like a balcony or something, like a picture of a balcony?
Okay. Yeah, you can see the whole thing then. Yeah, it's yeah, like a very Spanish fachada, very typical, very beautiful. Well, thank you guys for coming. This is a continued experiment, right? Trying to see what we can do in the days of COVID as well as the days of technology. Part of me wanted to do this to see what it'd be like for me to lead meditations at Saladana this way, but also if it worked, there's so many great teachers, of which I am not one, around the world who we could invite, who could come and lead us in Saladana no matter where they are. So just kind of feeling it out. I mean, it is kind of interesting that with the pictures, you can't really see the whole room, but maybe we could get a special camera or something someday to widen it up. Anyways, for those of you who have been coming either online or have been coming to Saladana, we have been talking about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And we kind of concluded that. So just to have something to talk about, because I like having that kind of structure and, not just making stuff up. I thought we would talk about a rather not really obscure, but not very well known or not very conocido, dependent arising. Most people know about the 12 spokes, I guess you could say, of dependent arising, but not too many people know about dependent liberation. And it's another wheel. Hi, Lara. It's another wheel that demonstrates conditionalidad, and how fundamental this is in Buddhism. How nothing arises by its own without causes and conditions supporting it and causing it to happen. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that after the meditation and how that might apply to the meditation is, and you might see this in the 7 factors of awakening, the 7th factor of investigation. So if you have been following along and we talked about the hindrances last week and so forth. If you notice something is hindering you, something is blocking you from being able to be present with your experience, investigate what is the cause, what are the conditions, what's the conditionality that might be underneath it. Like a lot of times energy in the body will be caused by thoughts in the mind. And the reverse can be true, where thoughts in the mind can be caused by energy in the body, sensations in the body. And that can create quite a loop where one feeds the other. And some thoughts are conditioned by other thoughts or by beliefs or by even opinions. And so the conditionality can be very helpful to try to get to the root. What is really causing my inability to be present in this moment, or, to suffer, or the opposite, to be happy, to be joyful, also has fundamental causes. So we'll talk about after the meditation. But so this during the meditation, the only unique instruction would be to investigate, to look underneath what could be causing this hindrance, this inability to be with my present moment experience. So I don't know if there are any questions, whether that was hopefully not too complicated. I wonder, Carlos, if anybody said anything, whether I could hear it, but I guess nobody said
anything yet. Any questions? No questions from Saladana.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Okay, so I didn't bring my bell with me, so I'm just going to allow my phone to be the bell. That's our starting bell. On your mark, get set, go. So finding a comfortable posture. One that is not only stable, but alert, you might say. And starting off with dropping into the body, inhabiting the body, creating that embodied awareness. Because we really only experience life through the body, but we often get caught up in our heads. So we could do a simple body scan. Might create that sense of embodiment, at least connect with parts of the body. So let's start with the feet. So just feeling your feet. If you're sitting in a chair, feeling how the feet touch the floor, make contact with the floor. If you're sitting on a cushion, you might notice pressure, points of contact where maybe feet are touching the zabuton. And we're really just experiencing whatever sensation is present. and moving up to the lower legs. Again, just scanning your body, moving to the upper legs, the sit bones. So again, there might at least be sensation at the points of contact, maybe also pressure, weight, sense of weight. And then to the torso, lower torso, lumbar, stomach, upper torso, chest, shoulder blades. Then we can go to the hands, feeling the hands. Maybe again, there's points of contact there, touching your knees or each other, the hands. Your arms, feeling your arms, sensing your arms. Shoulders. Maybe there's some pulling on the shoulders from the weight of the arms. And feeling the neck. And lastly, the head. Feeling the whole head, feeling the jaw. If there's any tension in the jaw, maybe give it a wiggle. Open and close your mouth, maybe. Feeling your face. Feeling the crown of your head. And then feeling the whole body, head to toe, shoulder to shoulder. And now your body in this posture makes a very good anchor for your attention and something you can keep coming back to again and again when you notice your mind is thinking. If your mind is very active, or if there's some anxiety or restlessness in the body, then I would recommend using the body as your anchor. But you can also use the breath. So let's find the breath. Find its root, its camino from the nostrils, through the chest, into the belly, from the belly, through the chest, out the nostrils. So if you like a more narrow, focused anchor, the breath is very good for that. You can either follow it on its journey or pick a spot and follow it at that spot. And if you're feeling a bit drowsy, a bit sleepy, then I recommend you pick a spot, one spot, and try to concentrate there. See if you can raise some energy by doing that. If you're super sleepy, you can always open your eyes or even stand up if you have to. And then lastly, or the third option I will mention is hearing, listening for sounds as an anchor, a very receptive method of meditating. It's can be quite calming because you're just waiting till sounds come. So picking an anchor, body, breath, or sounds, and then just keep coming back to it, whatever it is, feeling it, experiencing it, noticing what the mind might do, what voices in the head may say, not getting reactive with them, just noticing. Coming back again and again. That's the training. If you are noticing lots of thought or having difficulty staying very long with your anchor, you can look to the body first. See if there's any sensation in the body that might be causing the mind to think, maybe some anxiety or stress. Whatever it might be, if you find anything, just try to be with it and feel it, digest it. And if there's nothing in the body that you can find, maybe asking yourself, what is driving these thoughts? If it's fantasy, it might be desire, wanting something. If it's resentment or argument or justification, maybe there's some aversion. Or it could be just spacey thoughts due to sleepiness or scattered thoughts due to restlessness. Or you could be questioning your practice, questioning why you're here doing this today, in which case underneath that could be doubt. Sometimes just noticing and naming is enough to get it to calm down for a while. much like the hindrances can cause us to be unable to stay with the present moment or stay with our anchor, there are conditions that can support our staying with the anchor. And so if you find that you have managed to get several breaths together without thinking, or some time with the body or sounds, you might also notice what supportive conditions were present at that time or now, and see if we can cultivate those supportive conditions. Possibly a condition of letting go, just letting go again and again. Or maybe you find watching the exhalation of your breath is a supporting condition to stay with the breath rather than trying to follow both inhalation and exhalation, as an example. Different things. So very good. And no matter where your mind has been these 29 minutes, let's bring it back to the body. Reestablish the embodied presence, the yoga, the unity of mind and body and heart. Feeling whatever might be present in the body now, maybe some sensations in the legs if you're sitting on the floor. And then, if you're willing, bringing your attention to your heart center. Feeling that area and giving yourself a mental thank you. A mental gracias. Thank you for your practice, for spending time out on your Sunday in this way. And then imagining if you could take this gratitude, this goodwill, and extend it out to the people on this call for some of us in Saladana. And then maybe from here, radiating out in all directions, touching all beings. And since we already heard the bell once, you will hear it only one more time. And just seeing what comes up when you do. Well, thank you. I don't know how that was in Saladana. Hopefully it was okay. So I thought I would talk about something that I first heard about some 4 or 5 years ago during my first long retreat. It was a 28-day retreat. And for the first, I believe it was the first 14 days, we touched on one of these factors, one of these conditions in this dependent, liberating. No, that doesn't sound right either. Dependent, originating, arising, dependent, liberative arising. I'm not pronouncing it quite right, but something like liberative. Oh, that sounds terrible. Liberating arising? Maybe it's liberating. Might be liberating. Anyway, so to not make it up, I'm going to pull it up. So I will share screen, which should work pretty good. Saladana. Whoops, hold on. Where did it go? Here we go. There it is. Okay, so the first list is dependent arising, which is one of the things that Buddhism is most famous for, was this unique list or wheel that connected the different conditions that lead and end in suffering, dukkha. What is not so well known, partly because it isn't mentioned too many times in the written text that we have, is this transcendental liberative arising, this second list, which basically starts with suffering, starts with the end of the first one, and then goes to faith. And starting with faith, it leads to this list, one after another, finally ending with the destruction of all, is such a funny word, cankers or defilements or poisons of the mind, you might say, and the knowledge that we have achieved that. And what I think is, there's several things I think are interesting about this. One is that concentration, and in fact, I'm going to use another one here. This is actually off a website I did some years ago. And when I did the Google search to try to find a list, my own website came up. I'd forgotten all about it. I did it before I came to Spain. But at least here they're numbered, right? So the first one is suffering. And you'll see here that number 7 is concentration or samadhi, which is something that we've been talking about at Saladana and in these calls about the importance of samadhi and how to achieve it and so forth. And what's interesting is it's basically in the middle, right, of this list of liberative. So there's the word there, liberative, liberative. Huh. Sounds funny in the way I say it, but maybe that's exactly how it's said. Liberative arising. It's in the middle. It's a supporting condition for this arising, but it's not the end goal. And so many times, maybe because the Eightfold Path, and with my, I hope you guys can see these trends. So I can just click up, there's the Noble Eightfold Path. It's the last one. So sometimes people think that it is, and in fact, in some yogas, it is, like I think in the 8 limbs of Patanjali Yoga, it is the last one, samadhi. But in Buddhism, samadhi is also a conditioned state. It is not a permanent state. It is one that arises when certain conditions are present. And so I'll go back to this list, which is from Bhikkhu Bodhi, a scholar and quite well-known teacher and monk. So if we go to concentration in his list here, he's got all these descriptions. Let's see, here we go. So hopefully you can see this. Oh, maybe I can't. Can you see me whiting it out? Lara, can you see that? Or sort of bluing it out or whatever? Oh, good. So happiness is the supporting condition for concentration. So this is quite interesting and quite challenging as well, because, you know, happiness to me is kind of like what a lot of us would really like to have, or less suffering in our world, less dukkha, and concentration, which can allow us to not obsess about the things that cause us to suffer, is a very handy tool to have. But now here it's saying that samadhi, that happiness is a supporting condition for concentration. So it's like you've got to be happy first in order to get the concentration. And the way I kind of think this works is, yes, one is a condition that leads to another, that leads to another, and they also tend to work as a group. Definitely this applies to the Noble Eightfold Path, that we kind of keep circling it and one feeds the other. Mindfulness is required throughout, and etc. So the happiness, I'm going to go backwards just a bit here to talk about this happiness. Sukha So here it says tranquility is the supporting condition for happiness. And then I'll just go a little further. So tranquility, rapture is the supporting condition for tranquility. What this means, I'll go back to this list. Number 4 is rapture. This is one that we can all experience. This one is not that masaya. It's not that far away. In fact, on Saturday, there were 3 people present for the concentration class, and one of the participants definitely was experiencing piti. She was experiencing what they often translated as rapture. So in a 40-minute sit on a Saturday morning, she already managed to feel that piti. Some people it comes rather easy, some people maybe a little bit longer. But if you get that tingly sort of feeling in your body or a lightness in the mind, you've started to achieve the piti. Okay? And with a little bit of piti, we can just rest in it, feel it, and it will lead to this pasadi, this tranquility, this kind of calm happiness. And then the sukha, this one I find is a little harder to realize because it seems to come deeper. And it's like a mental happiness that comes from pretty deep. And not everybody gets that very often, if at all. But if we can get to tranquility, we have a supporting condition that can lead to sukha, to happiness. And if we can get to sukha, then we can get to samadhi. So it's not like it's that far off. I'll go through the last of these real quick. So the idea with samadhi, again, is not to just be in this blissful state, which samadhi can be that, very still, just, no problems, just feel great. But it is also a supporting condition for the next step, which is knowledge and vision. Knowledge and vision of what? Of the true nature of things. Knowledge and vision of how things really are. Now, here's where I found it got really interesting for me. Once we can see and we understand how things really are, the Four Noble Truths, the impermanence of all things, disenchantment kicks in. Now, this is kind of a word in the West where enchantment, right? This is the fairy tales, that they were enchanted. The princess was enchanted by the prince or whatever. And we hold this rather in high esteem. But in the East, in Buddhism, it's like a fool's errand. It is confusion because it's not real, right? We become enchanted by our story about whatever that is, right? Because even a prince or a princess is going to be unreliable. That person is going to have all their home problems, and being in relationship with them, they'll probably be spoiled. It'll be challenging without a doubt. And so it leads to this disenchantment where we realize that these things are not going to bring us the lasting happiness we thought they would. And then disenchantment leads to dispassion, which again, passion. Some of us think that, you got to have passion for this or that in order to be happy and so forth. And then there's others, like in the Catholic religions, I know passion can have a whole nother meaning, can be rather fraught with misunderstanding. But again, here it's dispassion. It's where there's suddenly, or maybe slowly, but it can seem sudden, just a letting go of the idea that is going to fix me. that is going to make me happy. We just let go. And it is not the same as indifference. It's not the same as not caring. We still care, but we're not fooled into thinking that that thing is going to make me happy. And I saw this very clearly with American basketball, because for years I had basketball tickets for a professional basketball team. I was a season ticket holder. I still am. I'm trying to get rid of them now, but and then I started to really deepen my practice, and I really stopped caring that much about basketball. This passion set in. But the irony was, then the team got good that same year, and they were the champions of the country, of the NBA. And I think they won 3 out of the next 5 years. They were great. But that passion had gone. I didn't really seem to care. And, did I miss out? I don't think so, because even when something good would happen, you'd get this rush, and you'd yeah, rah, 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 crash, always a crash. And, I don't particularly, want my life to be a roller coaster anymore. I mean, it was for a while. See, was this where we were? Yeah. And then after this passion, the next step is this emancipation, is freedom, right? We become free of all these cankers, of all these defilements, of all these things that had caused us suffering. And then it culminates in the knowledge that we have achieved emancipation, which I think is kind of interesting. I think see if I go back to Bhikkhu Bodhi, what does he say about that final one? Or first, let me just see, for dispassion. Yeah, this is complicated. He's very detailed about this. Let's just see, knowledge of destruction. Emancipation is the supporting condition for the knowledge of destruction, which reviews the defilements that have been abandoned by the particular path and the defiles remaining to be eliminated. And then at the end of this, we've eliminated all defilements. And not only have we eliminated them in this present moment, but we have ensured that they will not arise again. That is freedom, right? That's when we've achieved true liberation. And that's why they call it liberative dependent arising. Let me see, there's maybe one other thing I hadn't read this before, but let's see, where is it? Oh, it's this. Yeah, I just found this on the internet, and I kind of liked how this person wrote this out. So I'll just go through them real quick. So he talks, first we have dukkha again, and then we have faith. For one who is virtuous, that's kind of a scary word, non-remorse arises naturally. So they'll often say you'll hear this on retreat, the bliss of blamelessness. The bliss of blamelessness. So bliss in Spanish, I think, is like goza, no? Goza. And then blamelessness, sin culpabilidad. And so when we're on retreat, unless, we're stealing or something, it's very hard to feel guilty. I mean, I managed to still feel guilty about things, but, you're living this almost monk-like life. So the worst thing that you've done is maybe you've left some of your responsibilities to somebody else at home, but at least in the retreat, you're being a good person, right? And so to remind yourself of that, and that we can create some happiness, some bliss, some joy from being a good person. And then that one leads to the joy, which the joy then leads to this piti that we talked about. This joy will arise in the mind like a happiness, because really, if your mind is anything like mine, most of the time it's worrying, it's planning, it might even be regretting, I wish I hadn't done that, I wish I would have done this. There's not a lot of joyful thoughts, at least in this head. Mostly they're like survival thoughts, but once we can get away from that and be assured that I've done nothing wrong, I have nothing to worry about, and also on retreat, I know I'm going to be fed, I know I'm going to be taken care of, then this piti will start to naturally arise. And again, from that, the tranquility, from the tranquility, the pleasure, they call it pleasure sukha. Sometimes you see that as pleasure, sometimes as happiness, arises naturally, and then samadhi, which is where we started. Anyway, so I guess I will end with, when I do these things, I'm trying to think, what can we talk about that not only will allow us to learn a bit about Buddhism, which I like doing, but also maybe be useful in our regular daily lives. And I believe this conditionality, which is what these lists are, these are examples of conditionality. I believe this is like a law of nature, or at least nature as we understand it. Things arise because of other conditions. It's just the way things happen. Nothing just happens all by itself. And in fact, probably everything arises not only because of one condition, but because of multiple conditions. Right? Things come together. We call it sometimes a perfect storm, right? When certain things come together and then that causes something kind of amazing to happen, we might call that a perfect storm. And in Buddhism, this is very important, that in Buddhism, the Buddha believed that we had a certain amount of free will. Okay. In some Eastern traditions, and even in some Western science traditions, they don't believe we have free will. It's almost like things are sort of predetermined. But in Buddhism, it is believed that we have a certain amount of free will to cultivate wholesome and to let go of unwholesome. Right? We have the ability to do that. And so we can make an intention. We have the free will, enough free will to make an intention to try to create the conditions that are going to be supportive to bring us down the road of this path towards more tranquility, towards more happiness. And of which concentration, it just arises. It's an interesting one, concentration. It's not like you can concentrate your way to concentration. It's more like you have to relax the mind. You have to bring in that tranquility in the mind and the body, and then concentration by itself will start to happen. And not that it's the end of the path, because it is not at all the end of the path, but it is a part in the path where a lot of people do get kind of stuck, right? That kind of, I know for me too, it's just concentration has taken a very, very long time for me. But just to give you an example, so I drove, I'm in San Sebastian right now. So I drove, right? And I was able to concentrate, on my driving, but more just like in my body and not think. And it used to be, if I took a long drive, just think, plan, whatever. And I noticed it was so much easier for me to not think than it has been in the past. It's like it's just getting a little bit easier. And with that, I'm more spacious. I'm less inclined to be reactive and so forth. It's a very nice condition to have when I'm not lost up in my thoughts and I'm more embodied. And thanks to concentration, that training, I'm able to let go of my silly thoughts more and embody my body more. So it's that condition, something that through my free will, partly, I have managed to get it to a better state. And as a result, I have benefited. And so many of the lists of Buddhism, the 7 factors of awakening, the Noble Eightfold Path, the 5 spiritual factors, concentration is always there. I mean, it's fundamental in Buddhism. This samadhi, which, by the way, I really should, I should say that some people do not translate samadhi as concentration. Some people translate it as stillness, for instance. And I think this is very important. I'm not talking about a Western style, you better concentrate to get good grades type of a concentration. It is really much more about a stillness or a non-distracted mind. That's probably maybe the best way of just putting it. It's about a mind that's unified, tranquil, still, not distracted, not going bang, 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 bang like that. That's samadhi. And that's really what we're talking about. And that's a fundamental part of the Buddhist path. Okay. Are there any questions? Carlos, do you have any questions from Saladana? I'll unmute you here. Or maybe you have to unmute yourself. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think no questions from Saladana. So far, nobody voiced any.
Okay. And how about from Lara or Rosa? Okay. In that case, I may have to think a little more about what I could say. Sometimes I feel like it's sort of like a sales pitch. It's like, buy this samadhi, or buy conditionality, which again it's a point of view. And I think this particular point of view is probably as close to a natural law as we're going to get, karma being a very good example of conditionality, right? Actions have consequences. But it's something that I think we can really use in our daily lives. Like, for instance, I know a lot of people during COVID have not had a chance to get outside as much. They've not had a chance to exercise as much. I even hear the comedians from the United States talking about the COVID, belly that people have kind of grown because they haven't been able to exercise and they've been home a lot and eating more or eating and not exercising. And so this is kind of an example of conditionality, right? COVID is one of the factors, the shutdowns, the confinamientos are one of the factors. Not being able to exercise another factor, and it's led to people maybe gaining a little bit of weight, or they're not in as good a shape as they were. And hopefully with the coming out, we reverse that. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you guys something, since I have a couple minutes. See if you guys can see it.
Oh. La concha.
Yeah. So when I first got here, the first thing I did is I took a swim. So nice. Oh my gosh. Every time I come here, I just love it. That is one of the best swimming spots in that I know of. You know, it's a little, but it actually wasn't very cold at all. But it can get a little bit cold, but sometimes cold is nice. And yeah, I miss that swimming, but it's the same type of deal where we're taking care of our bodies, we're exercising our bodies, which is also another way of becoming embodied, right? I mean, hopefully when we exercise, at least sometimes our mind is in the body. Like when I like riding a bike, you know, you can put your mind in the pedals where it's pedaling, or if you're running, you know, as it touches the ground, swimming, maybe with the breath. These all these different ways embody our presence and they get us out of the thinking mind. And the more we can get out of the thinking mind, the more tranquility, the more piti, the more joy is going to arise. I mean, it's just another cause and effect. Okay, enough selling. Why don't we do a little metta meditation? And by the way, this, you know, metta is also such a wonderful supporting condition for not even samadhi. Like some teachers very much encourage us to do some metta at the outset of a concentration practice. Try to bring some joy to the mind. Bring that happiness to the mind, because happiness is a supporting condition of samadhi. I mean, it's right in that list, right? So yeah, this practice, so powerful, metta. You know, and especially when we have a difficult person, I think with a few phrases, we can turn that resentment into compassion, because almost for sure, probably 97% of the time, if we have a resentment towards somebody because they did something that hurt us, it's because they also were hurting in one way or another. Because almost for sure they don't want to hurt us, but we're unskillful at times. Okay. So let's find a comfortable posture. And especially with metta, comfortable is the emphasis. You don't want to struggle. Come back to your body, feeling your body. And then bringing your attention, if you're willing, to your heart center again. And let's start with ourself. Some people this can be difficult, but it's worth cultivating. So I'll say some phrases. You can repeat them to yourself. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. Now let's go to benefactor, benefactora. a person or a other kind of being, a pet, somebody you really love and adore without any reservations. Maybe even someone you look up to, a mentor or public figure. So imagine this being, and we'll send them metta, goodwill. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Okay, now let's try the difficult person. So try to imagine somebody you're a little mad at, or you're feeling a little hurt by something they did or didn't do, said or didn't say. See if you can bring them into your mind. Offer them goodwill, loving kindness, metta. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Just noticing how that is. And to all beings, may all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And as has been our tradition, let us renounce the fruits of our practice today, the teachings, our Buddha nature, our Sangha. Offer these up to the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence and discrimination, racism and coronavirus. And may all beings find their path towards liberative, dependent arising, find their conditions which lead to the end of their suffering. Well, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Carlos, for organizing things at Saladana. As some of you might know, so I'm en route to a retreat tomorrow. So I'll be on silent retreat for 2 weeks. Next week, Martina is going to lead the group from Saladana. For Rosa and Lara, if you check the meetup page, it should have her Zoom address if you wanted to join, because I think she will use her own Zoom address. For any of you who might be on YouTube, I don't think there's going to be one next week. And then from somewhere in France, I will be back in 2 weeks' time, and hopefully Carlos will be able to organize it again. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you all very much, and it was nice to give this a try. And I love this teaching. Yeah. Anyways, bye, Rosa.